Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and I want to talk about the most important thing it is possible for you to bring to an airsoft or nerf or paintball or any of these other kind of activities that we are so fond of. So there's a whole long list of things that you can bring, and within that is a still quite long list of things that you really should bring. So what is the most important thing? What's on the top of that list? Is it perhaps your primary, the thing you're going to be using the most and shooting all day long? No. Is it perhaps a secondary that can take over from your primary if your primary breaks down? Also no. What about a sidearm, something that you can carry with you at all times and will jump into action when you need it? Also no. What about decent footwear? Now this is very important and something that's often overlooked. A good pair of boots to protect your ankles. And you can see that these have been very well used. However, still, also no. What about eye protection? And in fact, in my case, I'm a strong advocate for full face protection. Now, eye protection of various forms was my #1 spot for the most important thing it is to bring. And if you want to be within 30-40 meters of the game, you do need to be wearing this. This is a vital piece of kit and something that you can't afford to not bring. Now it is so important that I am in the habit of actually having quite a lot of them so that in certain cases I can kind of loan them out. So what could it possibly be that has beaten eye protection to be what I consider the most important thing that you can bring where you're running around for several hours, usually outdoors, and shooting each other with toy guns or similar? What if I gave you a hint and said that it was chemical in nature, and its chemical name is dihydrogen monoxide, also known as water, and I'll get back to this momentarily. So in my opinion, water is the most important thing that it is possible for you to bring to a game where you're running around outdoors for several hours, probably under decent sunlight. And there are many ways to transport it, such as ridiculously large bottles, much smaller and sensible bottles, cans as well, and bags, in this case a hydration bladder, something that you wear on your back or you can attach to a rucksack if you're already wearing a rucksack. So this is a 2 litre, I think it's a 2 litre, but you can get different sizes. So allow me to tell you some stories about just why water is so important. So without water, or without enough water, you start to feel tired, you start to feel the effects of the sun much more strongly, and sunscreen is also a very good thing to bring. It's on that list of things that you should be bringing, or at least someone should. So you end up thinking more slowly, you end up feeling more tired, and generally having a very unpleasant time of it. And if it gets bad enough, you can actually suffer quite some serious injuries, starting with heat stroke and moving all the way up to cellular damage, which is really bad and you don't want. To look back historically, I have a story from 1967, or at least I think it is. I tried to look up the facts of this story and I actually could not find them. So I'm repeating this based on my memory of it, rather than anything that I found more recently just to confirm it. This is a story based in the lead up to the Six-Day War in 1967 between Israel and its neighbours. And I won't go into any detail about that war because, again, haven't done my research. In the lead up to this conflict, Israel did some research on just how much water their soldiers would need. So after some studies and testing, they came to the conclusion that to keep their soldiers alert and active, they would need to supply 24 litres of water per soldier per day. And given that the soldiers would be asleep for some of that time, yes, that's more than a litre an hour when you're kind of moving around and marching. That's a lot. Of course, we are talking about a desert in the middle of summer, so that's an extreme case. More relevant to us playing airsoft and nerf and paintball, just how much water should you be drinking, or just how much other drinks should you be drinking through the day? Because it doesn't have to always be water. So as some of you know, I work with robots, and they're awesome. And one day of work last year, in the middle of summer, I was required to work outdoors. Now I spent a lot of this time in the shade of a tree, using software to remotely do my job, and that was fine. However, simply being outside in that heat, even under the shade of the tree more than half of the time, I drank well over 10 litres of water that day. Starting, of course, with 2 litres of cola, which is actually a good thing in that case, because the acids in there will keep my acidity high. And I drank through another 10 litres of water after that. So 12 litres of fluids I drank that day. There was also the case at the Battle of Britain of 2018. There's also the case of the Battle of Britain in 2018. And I shall bring back this bottle, because this is the bottle that I took with me. This is a 15 litre bottle that's designed for the water coolers. And when I started, it was full. And every day when we were on site, the 4 days that we were there, 3 days, 4 days? I think it was 4 days. But every day that we were there, we went off site to the local shop to get some food, and I again bought more drinks. I bought smaller bottles of water. I bought cola as well, again, for the acids and the flavour. By the time we came back, this 15 litre bottle of water was empty. And you've played your part, so you can go off to the side. Probably somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 litres of water every single day back at Battle of Britain. Just to drop in some caveats and yeah-buts about what you should drink, and mostly it should be water. And while I say that I do drink rather an unhealthy amount of cola, I don't recommend that you do the same. If you are drinking a lot of drink during a day, when you're outside and it's hot weather, mix it up a little bit, of course. Like 10 litres of water does get a little boring, although it is required. You can have fruit drinks, you can have tea, you can have many other things. But certainly drinking 10 litres of energy drinks will kill you. Don't do that. There's also just how much water you should drink, and I have mentioned already that drinking 7 litres, 10 litres, even 12 litres in a day is something that I have done, but that is in the hottest days that I have spent outside in my whole life. However, in the middle of winter, when I'm working at a computer all day long, I generally don't drink any more than 2 litres. In fact, it can quite easily get less than 2 litres, litre and a half, or even 1 litre in a whole day. You shouldn't be forcing yourself to drink 10 litres of water in a day, because that's probably also not healthy. With too much water in your bloodstream, the osmosis causes your blood cells to explode, and that's bad. So the takeaway is to have access to water, and if you feel tired, hot, drink. If you've been walking around for a lot, you're having a moment to rest, have a drink, have a mouthful, have a sip. Don't drink an entire litre all in one go, because it prevents your body from regulating the amount of fluids in your system. And it also depends on climate. So England can get quite hot in summer, but depending on where in the world you are, your nice hot summer's day might be 10 degrees cooler than it is in England, or it might be 10 degrees hotter than it is in England. Just like my story about the Middle East, with 24 litres of water per day recommended by the Israeli military. So if you're in a equatorial country, you probably should be drinking more. If you're far away from the equator, you probably should be drinking less. Smaller point while I'm talking about water, and that's the splashing water on your face. Now, it can actually keep you more alert. We as humans have a subconscious reaction to having water splashed on our face. But I watched a video on the subject recently, and if I can find that, I shall put it in the video description, because it was actually rather interesting. However, when you're outside on a hot summer's day, it's probably not a good idea to actually do that. Firstly, because the amount of water that you put on your face is far too much and you're wasting it. And secondly, you're also washing away all of the oils and salts that you're sweating out, and that's actually kind of important as well. So that amount of water would be better served if you drink it and then you let your body sweat it out normally. But again, that's a minor point. The point for today is keep drinking. And it was brought up as a bit of a joke in the lead up to End War, which happened over in America recently. And I didn't attend because it's the other side of the universe. I can't afford to go, and I probably wouldn't be let into America anyway. So at some point, someone, who I'm not sure where this exactly came from, put a Hail Hydrate logo on a water bottle. And I think that's an excellent thing that we can start passing around. Just whispering to each other, Hail Hydrate. Drink some water. Just as a little joke, just to kind of remind us that drinking water is kind of important. So, I'm ED-SKaR, and you really should stay hydrated and alert and awake and not having heat stroke. And thank you very much for watching.